Hi everyone, my name is Michelle. I am an author and a poet, and I will be a guest on the Made in Uganda show season 2 at 7 p.m. So make sure to tune in and ask any questions if you may have any. Yeah. The one thing that my mom has made sure is a lesson, and that my mom has always told me, she has always told me, Michelle, if you have a wide variety of things, never let anyone ever have to tell you that you have to choose. If you can live, you can write. And people have their different ways with coping with different things. But I definitely do think the option of writing is there. But if you don't have passion for it, and if you don't have like the need to, and you're just doing it just because, just for just, I don't think your work is going to come out as good as it would have if you had love for it. But the thing with blogs and poems and this and this and this, the main key goal is to be relatable. These are not like novels, this is not like Harry Potter. These are real life situations. The one thing I want to be said, when my name comes up in a room, I want people to be able to say Michelle was very fearless in her art. Michelle was extremely inspirational. Michelle was creative. Michelle made an impact on my life.
Today we have, guys, we have a 16-year-old author, someone who's already written and published a book by age 16. So if you're not challenged already, before she even speaks, get serious. So you're most welcome, Michelle. Thank you for being here and allowing to share with us and be open with your story. Yeah, you're welcome. And how are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Karina. Thank you so much. I feel so honored to be on the Made in Uganda show, and I'm excited to inspire and be inspired.
Why writing of all things? I mean, there's singing, there's sports, there's I don't know, so many things in this world to do. Why writing?
But I can't exactly say that I chose poetry. It's something that came out of the blue for me. It was like an instant connection. The relationship that I have with poetry is, I call it a relationship because poetry is the love of my life. It came from nowhere. It was like love at first sight. I didn't do research. I didn't do this. I didn't do this. It just came, and that was why poetry for me.
Where did poetry find you? What point in time? Were you in school? Were you in primary? What, emotional, like where did it find you?
And this might be very embarrassing to say, but I feel a lot. Like I feel so many things at once. And in primary, I didn't know what poetry was. So every time I'd get like pissed or I would overfeel, and I would have like no one to talk to. I can't talk to my parents. So then what I used to do was I would write like stories, like short stories of my feelings, because I didn't know what poetry was, but I knew what like stories were. And then I went to S1 and I'm learning literature, and I'm seeing growing up in poetry, and I'm saying, oh, what's this? And they say, oh no, they're poems. You put them in like stanzas and rhyme. And that was very interesting to me. So I changed some of my stories into poems, and they were way better like that. I was like, this is so cool. This is better than what I've been doing. What I've been doing is terrible.
From writing, let's say, how long does it take you to write? What really sparks of what's your muse? And then to publish, to editing, publishing, who did you use as a publisher? That entire process before we get the final print out.
One thing I will say, I will tell you, it was so hard. It was so difficult. I thought I was patient, but for a bookmaking process, you need patience. Beyond patience, you need to be like on a whole other different level of like waiting. And it was particularly difficult for me because there was a season in vacation where they put us on like a semi-lockdown, a mini lockdown. So I wouldn't leave my house. I would communicate with these people online. I used an editing house called Scribe House. And these people, they're not my age. So my aesthetic and my views that I wanted to put weren't exactly pleasing. So would have like conflicts of interest. And but it has taught me to to how to relate with older people and how to socialize with older, because these are people 40 years and above, and I'm telling them, no, you can't say that, it's my poem, I'm going to do it. No, you can't bring it like that. And at first I was very, thinking these guys are my age mates, when in actual sense they're not. They're professionals who know what they're doing. Some of my poems that I loved so much had to be taken out. Some of my things had to be removed, some of my words were changed. And as an artist, seeing them change your work is like seeing them rip you apart and just remove your organs. And it was really, really, really difficult for me. But coming out of this, I had patience. I learned how to talk to older people, which is a skill I did not know I needed to have. And it was really, really, really difficult, but I pushed through. I was extremely patient, and the work at the end was entirely worth it.
That actually, what you talked about, how at some, in 2017, you thought you were really the scientist, and now you're switching to a very contrasting industry as someone who was once interested in the sciences and also now is participating in a lot of humanities. How are you going to maneuver that when you're asked to choose one?
The one thing that my mom has made sure is a lesson, and that my mom has always told me, she has always told me, Michelle, if you have a wide variety of things, never let anyone ever have to tell you that you have to choose. If you in your heart you think you can do everything, then you can do everything. You understand? So I feel like when I'm put to a point where I have to choose and where I don't have to choose, I'm going to try. And this sounds extremely cliche, and so, oh my God, she's just saying what everyone is saying. But I really want to choose something that genuinely makes me happy, something that I'm going to be fulfilled with at the end of the day. I want a sustainable life where I have enough money to sustain myself, but I don't want to be depressed. I don't want to be miserable. I want to do something that's going to bring me joy. So when it comes to having to choose or not having to choose, I'm going to try to do something that I would want to wake up every single morning and go and do. Make my days worthwhile. Like being on my deathbed and knowing for the past 50 years, I woke up every single morning doing something that inspired me and that helped me to inspire more people.
That reminds me of a principle called the Ichigai principle, where you have to choose your career based off of your purpose and your definition of success. So, guys, we have today's session is different. Michelle is an author, she's a poet, but her words, she's that flexible. Her words can jump from the page to the stage. So, Michelle, if you don't mind, kindly just sample us and show them how it's done and perform for us any piece you would like to.
So I'm going to perform, and then I'm going to say what it's about after, because it's really short. So the title of this poem is 21. I hope you found happiness in all the places that you went looking for it. I warned you not to go through the fire. Did I not, my love? I pray that your 21 loves you. But then again, love is like a child with a gun in her hand. It's reckless. So I pray 21 holds you. I pray it catches you. I pray your 21 loves you. Yeah, thank you. And I wrote this poem in 2022. So this poem is about 2021. And it's directed to like a person. And I'm telling, because I know how hard their year was for them in 2020. So saying, I hope you found happiness in all the places you went looking for it. I want you not to go through the fire, did I not? So this person's problems. Sorry, you guys. I keep capping you guys. It's not a person, it's me. Anyway, I was writing this poem for me because 2020 was really difficult for me. So it was like a letter to me. So it was, I hope you found happiness in all the places you went looking for it. I want you not to go through the fire. That was me, because the whole relation thing, the whole love thing is really risky. And I told myself I wasn't going to do that, but I did in 2021, and it was really difficult. So I was saying, I pray your 21 is about love. So 21 is 2021. So saying, I hope my 2021 is about love, but like, I hope your 21 is about love. But then again, love is like a child with a gun in her hand. if a child has a gun in their hand, they're like reckless. So that's what love is. So this poem basically was telling myself in second speech where to put my love and kind of love to give out, and really a letter to 2021, a letter to my future year, a letter to myself to be cautious and be careful, a prayer for myself. Yeah. It's called
Wow,
21.
that's deep. And for you to grasp all that in just those few lines, that's something I admire. So guys, we have come to the end of my session. So it's the floor is yielded to you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat or raise your hand and I'll ask you to unmute. So does anyone have any questions for Michelle?
Hello, everyone. Hi, Michelle. Thank you for taking the time to share with us. And I am inspired. Someone so young, but yet so active. So my question is in line with how you sold your books. How did you find a market for your books? How did you come up with sales? What sort of strategy did you use?
Like, I did all my digital marketing myself. I made all the posters myself, all the because I didn't find people. I didn't want to find people and pay them to do what I could do. And I did it over a period of time. But I'm on WhatsApp, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Snapchat. And I don't have a very big following on Instagram, but I have a good enough amount. So I showed my Instagram followers that I was genuine. On my Instagram, like weekends, I had a thing called Weekends with Michelle, where every weekend I would recite a poem until the book came out. So that created like anticipation for the book. If I wouldn't recite a poem, I would give like an IGTV. I would give little parts of myself to show my viewers that they could trust me and they could buy my product and that I was genuine and I was giving them, quality work. And when it was time, I advertised for the book. I put it every single place I could. I forced my mom to status it. She never status it, but I forced her to. I forced my sister. I made sure I made noise about the book so that even if you didn't know me, Michelle, as a person, at least you've seen the book somewhere, and that like compels you to buy it. And with time, maybe get interested in poetry and say, oh, this is pretty cool. This is so, yeah.
A question has come in the chat from Precious Muganzi, and she asks, in your opinion, can anyone write?
If you can live, you can write. And people have their different ways with coping with different things. So you never know someone who doesn't write, maybe sings or plays the guitar or plays the piano or plays the this, but definitely do think the option of writing is there. But if you don't have passion for it and if you don't have like the need to and you're just doing it just because, just, I don't think your work is going to come out as good as it would have if you had love for it. So anyone can write as long as you love writing, you can.
Buyinza Charity, you had your hand up, and then Mutawazi Isaac will ask after you. So Buyinza Charity, please unmute and ask your question.
My question is that I write also, but not poetry necessarily, although I would very much like to do that. I write a blog, but I want to ask that how can you stay creative and also maybe get your message out to more people so that maybe more people will be helped through your poems and they understand with emotions.
But the thing with blogs and poems and this and this and this, the main key goal is to be relatable. These are not like novels, this is not like Harry Potter. These are real life situations. And when you're relatable to the people that are reading your work, then people want to read your work more and more and more. So my advice would be to be genuine and be real in your experiences. If you don't feel comfortable fully giving out your experiences, you could just use like she, he, they, like you could disguise it in a way that people don't necessarily have to know it's you, but make sure your work all comes from like the heart. Make sure you're heart driven and mind driven and soul driven as well, to make your work more genuine, real, and more relatable. And in that, you'll get as many people as you want to read your work and your art.
Okay, Mutawazi Isaac, you can unmute and ask your question.
Yes, thank you. My main question was throughout this experience, throughout this journey, what kept you going? Like what inspired you to keep going? Because I'm sure you had those bad days where you were like, nah, this ain't working or something. So like what pushed you? What kept you going?
I did have bad days, and there were so many days that I wanted to give up. But I look at like what kept me going is that I felt like I had already failed at so much in my life. Like there was a time that I started working out. 1 week in, I was tired. I said, no, this is too difficult for me. This is too, and whatever, this is not going to help me in any way. So I wrote, like when I was starting, the first time that I wanted to give up on the book writing, when they had refused to give me the money, when me and my publishers artistic views were different, when everything was so difficult, and I felt like the book process was tearing me apart and it was supposed to build me. What I did was at night, like at 3 p.m., I sat down in my room and I wrote down a list, and I wrote down, why are you doing this? And I wrote them like line by line by line by line. And on the other side, I wrote down what would happen if I didn't do this. And what would happen if I didn't do this is that my life would go on normally. I wouldn't be the Michelle that I had envisioned for myself. I wouldn't, exceed my potential. And that scared me. It scared me that I had work, I had art, I had poetry, and I was just, I was giving up because of laziness, because I didn't want to, because of reasons that weren't tangible. So what motivated me and what kept me going is that I would keep on looking at that list. I like pinned it up on the wall. There were like 3 reasons maximum, and I pinned it up on the wall, and I just kept looking at that. Every single time things got difficult, every single time I felt like crying, I always remember there's a different direction you could take to handle with the different issues that I had.
All right. So my question is, looking at Uganda, Uganda is a country where kids, mostly starting from kids, trading skill isn't taught a lot, and it's very rare. It's really rare to find people really interested in reading and all that. And this is your country, so you're definitely looking at market basing on your first local market, the people around you. Of course, you sold out your first book, and that was fine. But then it being consistent, how do you have you, or do you consider at the fact that people, our mindsets, mostly us as a country, Ugandans, don't you find that difficult to sell out, to continuously do?
It's obviously going to be difficult, but difficulty in consistency of reading for my end of year exams is different from the difficulty of me being consistent with my poetry. I think one of the stepping stools for me and what has helped me so much is that I've said this before and I'll say this again, poetry is the love of my life. When you love something so much, you tend to it, you handle it with care, you do all these things with it. So for me, poetry for me is a lifestyle. So it wouldn't much being consistent as me just continuously giving content. And it's a space in which I feel comfortable. So I never feel at any specific time that I wouldn't want to give my content or my poetry or my this. So I feel like it's easier for me to be consistent for the kind of love and the kind of passion that I have for poetry. Because if I'm sad, because I think that break consistency are like depression, or you feel like you're in a too happy place in your life to give people content. But when I'm depressed, I write. When I'm happy, I write. When I'm this, I write. When I'm this, I like. It's a lifestyle for me. So consistency isn't difficult when you're just in your life. So yeah, that's how I've handled the consistency issue.
Okay, Harold, I hope your question was answered.
I think she didn't get me as well, because I'm not talking about consistency from her side. Yeah, what I asked, my major question is about her market. Her market, us, who she's selling her knowledge to. I said convincing. What does she think about it? What do you think? What's her plan about convincing us to buy more books, basing on how, I can't say all of us, but most of us, looking at us as a country, having been brought up with that kind of reading skill, because it's something you pick up when you're young. You don't just wake up in the morning and gain that love for reading. So what I've asked is, what I want her to tell us, or me, is how exactly is she going to handle that? Not from her side, but from our side, from those young people coming up. I don't know if you get.
Yes, I get.
think-
Michelle?
I think I don't know if I'm getting the question clearly, but how am I going to keep selling my product? How am I going to keep like the market? How am I going to appeal to them?
Yes, because he fronts the belief that Ugandans don't like reading. That's the norm.
Yeah.
So you're providing a product where they have to read, and how are you going to keep them reading?
That's true. Ugandans don't like reading. But the one thing about Ugandans is that they are very virtual people. Like they're very virtual people. They like the experience. That's why you see there's an accident and people always want like a video. They're not going to just depend on the WhatsApp text that you send. They're going to ask, do you have a picture? Do you have a video? Did you like see it? So I think in a way that I'm going to manage that is because I know a lot of people don't like reading. But what I do on my social media is going to take over the world one day. So I try to juice it of its fruits while it's early. So what I do is like I try to take small like extracts of my book, like short poems, which even if you're in a hurry, you're like, oh, what's this? Like not long things, like short things. And I try to make it as interesting as possible, so that in case you decide to like that could lead you to like buy it. And another thing I try to do is I try to market myself from spoken word, because it's way easier to watch a video of someone reciting a poem or to see someone reciting a poem than to read their book in question. Because I know that we aren't raised with the culture of reading and the art of reading, but we are raised in homes where there are TVs, you watch YouTube, you watch cartoons, you watch this. So in a lot of things that we do, we are used to watching. And because of that, I use my spoken word poetry a lot because I love reciting the poems that I write. So that's yeah, I hope I've answered the question this time.
I believe you have the best of your abilities, but also before I hand over to Jason, I just want to say that the mentality that Africans or Ugandans don't like reading is sort of a false front, because Uganda and Africa at large is getting richer and more wealthier, and not just in terms of money, but in terms of knowledge and our thirst for knowledge. Hakeem was previously talking about, we're in the most gifted demographic of all times because people are thirsty for knowledge and they're reading more than ever before. Ugandans don't read. You're alone on that, because we are thirsty for knowledge, and the knowledge, as much as there's exposure on YouTube and the things that we see, the knowledge is in the books. And as we get richer, I believe and I am convinced that the market will expand inevitably.